When the play clock is running out and it's looking clear that the quarterback won't be able to get the play off, usually a timeout will be called. While it stinks to have to burn one of your 3 timeouts, especially if it's a close game in the second half, the benefit of not having to move back 5 yards makes the decision worth it to a lot of people. But there are some instances where it's better to take the delay of game penalty. There's some situations where you need to have the situational awareness to not burn a timeout, either since the timeouts are more important, or based on the yardage you have to go, it just isn't worth it. And Danny Wuerffel was severely lacking on that situational awareness part, because in a 2002 Thanksgiving Day game against the Dallas Cowboys, Wuerffel called what has to be one of the stupidest timeouts ever. And this is the story behind that. Here's the context for the situation at hand. It's November 28, 2002, and Washington is traveling to Texas Stadium to take on the Dallas Cowboys in their annual Thanksgiving game. This is the true definition of a must-win game for both teams, as the New Orleans Saints currently hold the number 6 seed with a 7-4 record. For Washington at 5-6 and Dallas at 4-7, a loss would all but eliminate their chances at making the postseason, especially for the Cowboys. And a big reason why Washington was even in this below 500 spot to begin with was because of awful quarterback play. Shane Matthews was one of the worst starting quarterbacks in the league that season. While he reunited with head coach Steve Spurrier, who coached him at Florida, it just wasn't working out down the stretch. In Week 10 against the Jaguars, Matthews threw 2 interceptions and lost a 26-7 contest. And in Week 11 against the Giants, Matthews went 15 for 35, completing just 42% of his passes for 113 yards in a losing effort. Frustrated with these performances, and frustrated with seeing his season slip away, Steve Spurrier decided to make a change, and put in another Florida quarterback. Danny Wuerffel, who was acquired in a trade during the offseason with the expansion Houston Texans in exchange for defensive tackle Jerry DeLoach, was now taking over. Wuerffel bounced around the league on a bunch of different teams by this point in his career, but maybe some familiarity with Spurrier could give the Heisman winner the jolt he needs to reboost his career. And early on, it seemed like this might actually work. Washington won their next game against the defending NFC champion St. Louis Rams, and Wuerffel completed nearly 70% of his passes, while posting a passer rating of 102.6. In this Thanksgiving contest against Cowboys, Wuerffel had a chance in front of a national television audience to keep his hot streak going. And following a rough first quarter where he threw 2 picks, he settled down in the second and played well. He found Rod Gardner on a beautiful 40-yard back shoulder touchdown to tie the game, and then on the next drive, threw a 16-yard touchdown to Zeron Flemister to take the lead. Fun fact, Flemister caught 4 touchdowns in his career, and this was the last of them. He went 10 for 11 during that second quarter, and when the third quarter started, he found Darius Thompson for his 3rd straight touchdown pass. Things were looking amazing for Wuerffel in Washington right now. It's about to go downhill. Following a punt by Dallas that pins them inside their 3-yard line, Washington, after 3 straight touchdown drives, excluding the drive where they intentionally ran out the clock at the end of the first half, was forced to work from deep in their own territory. On first down, Stephen Davis got stuffed for a loss of 2. On second down, Wuerffel throws it away. This brings up 3rd and 12 on their own half-yard line. And with the play clock running down and about to hit 0, to avoid a delay of game penalty, Wuerffel calls timeout, which was Washington's 2nd of the half already. And this might be one of the stupidest timeouts I've ever seen in a game. Calling a timeout to avoid a delay of game penalty is one thing. 5 yards can make a big difference. But to do it here? To do it when you're pinned at your own half-yard line? If you take the delay of game, you're moving back a foot. There's no risk whatsoever to taking the penalty. But that timeout could come in handy down the stretch, especially if it's a close game or you're playing from behind. And I think Wuerffel immediately realized after calling this timeout what a bad mistake he made. Even Joe Buck called out Wuerffel for this decision of his. Take a listen.
Instead of taking a delay of game call and losing only about half a yard, the Redskins used their 2nd timeout of this second half.
In the end, this was the turning point of the game. That idiotic timeout completely flipped the script, because on the very next play, Wuerffel threw a pick 6. Obviously, I can't blame Wuerffel for this one, since it went off of Kenny Watson's hands, but it resulted in Dallas getting right back into the game. Just an unfortunate play there for Wuerffel. And then in the fourth quarter, Chad Hutchinson found Joey Galloway for a 41-yard touchdown to give the Cowboys the lead, as Dallas would go on to win the game 27-20. After calling that timeout, Washington did not score another point for the rest of the game. It was a bad loss for Washington for a ton of reasons. One being that when Spurrier was introduced that season as the head coach, he promised to give Dan Snyder the game ball from his first win against the Cowboys. Obviously, that didn't happen. Oh, and to add insult to injury, that timeout would have been incredibly useful, as trailing by 7, Washington got the ball with only 44 seconds left. If they had that timeout and everything else stayed the same, you're looking at 90 seconds to go 85 or so yards, which is hard, but it's doable. To go 85 yards in 44 seconds with no timeouts is borderline impossible. There are some instances where it's just better to take the delay of game penalty, and this was a perfect example of one of them. Sometimes there are plays in a game that don't show up in the box score, but make all the difference and wind up serving as key turning points. Wuerffel's lack of situational awareness here was the turning point for Washington in this game and in their 2002 season. While you can pinpoint a bunch of different plays as to why Washington struggled in 2002, perhaps the best example to show this was the play that didn't happen. Be sure to like this video, ring the notification bell, and subscribe down below if you haven't already, as it helps the channel out a lot. And be sure to check out Twitch every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern for your chance to play NFL trivia and win cash prizes. Link in the description below. If you want to see videos like this condensed down to 60 seconds, then follow me on TikTok at JaguarGator9 and subscribe to 60-Second NFL History on YouTube. Also, special thanks to all of our Patreon supporters for the channel. Your support is greatly appreciated. So you can become a patron and request future video topics in the description below.